Greetings, 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 everyone. Steve, Paracords of Kindness. How are you doing today? Hopefully your weaving's been happy. Okay, what I have for you today is the follow-up video to the one that was uploaded previously. The one that was uploaded previously was how to weave the Fishbelly with the Cobra Inlay. This one today, I'm going to show how I do the stitching on the side. And I've got two of these that I've done so far. This one, olive drab, maroon, and gold. I love these colors. And this one's also a personal favorite of mine. Black, Imperial Red, and a really dark gray known as Anthracite. I know you can't see that very well. But if you want to know how to do the bracelet, check out the other video. The link for it will be in the description below. But this one, I am simply going to show you how I do the stitching along the sides. So if you want to see how I do that, stick around. We'll get right to it, folks. Okay, weavers. Like I said in the introduction, I'm going to just show you how I do the little side stitching on this bracelet. Let's see. First things first, though. Shameless plug. This one right here is a 3-color Cobra Belly. But the principle, you can add another color. I've done it in 4 colors. Principle's the same, obviously. Weave's the same. But I'll put a tutorial for this in the cards and in the description below. And if anybody wants to know, this is black, colonial blue, and standard gray. Okay, now, this one right here is the one where actually the style, the weave we'll be working on today. I've got the tutorial for how to do the bracelet. What we're going to do today is this little stitching on the side. But this is known as, it depends on where you look, either a belly fishtail or a fishtail belly. I simply call it a fish belly with the Cobra Inlay. The other tutorials you'll find, they won't have that Cobra Inlay. It'll just be the basic bracelet. But I'll put the link to how to do the actual bracelet with this Cobra Inlay in the cards and the description below. Okay, I'm going to do this one slightly different today. I'm going to just let the camera run and do this because it doesn't take that long. And I'm going to just sit here and do it, and I'll talk while I'm doing it or whatever. And, you know, as always, all the measurements and things are down below, so check those out. I've already got the bracelet itself made. I made the bracelet for the tutorial of how to do the bracelet. And if you look, here, let's zoom in. I'll let you see a little bit more detail what I'm actually doing here. I'll take this one off also, maybe, you know, whichever one's more visible to the camera. But what it is, okay, you can probably see it better on this one. But the way I've done it anyway, you can do it however you want. But this cord running down the middle here is 550, and I use gold. And the micro cord is maroon. And that's the same color scheme I did on the sides. But this piece of gold on the side is 95. And the stitching is still micro cord, but it's 2 separate pieces that are laid right next to each other to make it a little bit wider so it's a little bit more visible. As opposed to using, I thought about using a piece of 95, but then I thought, no, I think it'll look better. It'll give it a little more texture and it would look better. It would sit flatter as opposed to having that thicker piece of 95. Just put 2 pieces of microcord right next to each other. Does that make sense? And the side stitching, you've seen me do this on quite a few of my videos. The side spiral, as I call it, or spiral stitching. It just wraps around that outer core strand. And it's not very hard. Once you kind of figure out how to do it, you can pretty much adapt it to any of these bracelets that have, you know, the exposed core strand or edge core strand in certain places. But I'm going to show you how to do this. First off, the way I do it is I start off doing that piece of 95. I do it first, and then I come back and do, you know, one piece of microcord and then the second piece of microcord. But on this one, I've already done one side of it, so you can kind of see what we're going for. This one is black, Imperial Red. Oh, yeah, I'm big on the colors. Olive drab, gold, and maroon. These are some of my favorite colors right here to use together. Now, these also are some of my favorite colors, black and red. Well, since it has that option of the third color, I chose this dark gray. It's called Anthracite. You can't quite see it up under that red, but I wanted to use something that was still dark but not black. So there is a little bit of distinction. You can see it a little bit better right here on the side where I've done it. But I've ran that piece of 95 anthracite up through there, and then I come back, stitched it once, and then stitched it again. Right? And that's all I'm going to do is this part on the side right here. Like I said, if you want to know how to do the actual bracelet, check out the cards in the description below for the link to that. Okay, let's see. This is not really that hard. I'll tell you this. If you've made this bracelet by watching the tutorial on how to do that, that's way harder, way, you know, more time consuming. You got to pay very close attention to your steps and all that. The stitching, the side stitching, yeah, it's relatively simple. It's pretty simple. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I do this. I've already got my cords cut. That way I wouldn't have to waste time and do all that on camera. I went ahead and got it. And like I said, the description or the measurements will be down below. But this is 95 right here. You could use, I wouldn't suggest using micro cord for that piece that runs all the way through there, the gray piece, the anthracite piece. I wouldn't suggest using micro cord because it'd be so thin that it would most likely get lost and you wouldn't see it. Now, if you have 275, that may work. You could do that because it's a little bit thicker than this 95. It would work also, I think. I don't know if I've ever done one of these bracelets with 275 down the side specifically, but I'll imagine it would work. But anyway, I'll just show you how to do this. It's not hard. And I'm gonna just leave the camera running and just sit here and talk, and we'll do this. Okay, so like I said, I've already done this side. And the way I usually do this is I'm gonna start down here at the bottom for this, and I'm gonna run it up this way. So I'm gonna flip it over to the back. I'm going to tell you, when I do one of these bracelets, I was telling a friend of mine this the other day. When I set up on my jig, I've got it set up. It's just a standard. You can do it either way you want. It doesn't matter. But I always have the male end of the buckle at the top of the bracelet where I start weaving. And the female end is always where I end the bracelet. Why I choose to put them that way? No specific reason as why the male's here and the female's here, except for the fact that I just want it to be standard. I want all my bracelets to have that. And I just suggest, that's a suggestion, a tip, if you will. It will alleviate confusion of, I know sometimes people, I see posts where people, they'll weave the bracelet, and at the end of it, they realize they've got a male end here and a male end here. Or they'll have two female ends. Well, if you have a standard and you do it the same way every single time, an SOP, standard operating procedure, you're less likely to run into mistakes like that. Makes sense? That's the reason I do that. No other reason than just to have a standard so everything's consistent. Now, you can put the female end up here, no problem. I just chose to do the male. It just happened to be the way my jig was set up today, and I decided, okay, from this point forward, we're going to have the male end at the top and the female end at the bottom. Makes sense? So, anytime you watch any of my videos, for the most part, there might be some that, you know, I made for whatever reason, they're not like that. But most of the bracelets I do, if you're seeing the male end, that's where I started weaving, and the female end is the bottom of the weave, right? Okay, so now with that said, I'm going to show you how to do this. I usually start down here at the bottom and work my way back up. We'll flip it over, and like I showed in the other videos where I anchored everything, that's where everything's going to get anchored. And since we're going to be doing it on this side, I'm going to anchor it on that side where those cords are. So if you look, this gray anthracite, these two pieces of micro, they're anchored over here in this group of cords. Right? But these, since we're going to be on this side of the bracelet, we're going to anchor them to that side. Like I've said before, I leave all my little tails, my nubs, hanging out about an inch, inch and a half, 2 inches. That way, you don't have a hard lump of cut and burn plastic that potentially could get in your way of sticking your needle through there to stitch, right? So I just cut them so they're not dangling all in the way, tangling with everything, but yet it prevents that piece of plastic, and I can still get through there if I need to. Okay, that's why I do that. All right. Okay, so this is all we're gonna do. We'll just take my piece, and I'm gonna, like I said, the bottom of the bracelet where I'm gonna start at. I'm gonna just come in from this side and go in, and then we're gonna work through the bracelet and just run it up that edge. Right, and it's usually pretty easy to get it through there. I'll show you. If I get this to go through here, I'll zoom in a little bit more just so you can see. Like I say, it's not hard. Most of you've watched my channel, you can probably do this, you know. But I figured, why not just go ahead and film the tutorial for this, since and I already did one for the bracelet. I figured I'll do it for this. That way, you know, if somebody doesn't know, they can see. But I imagine, no offense to anybody, but I imagine if you're experienced enough to actually recreate this bracelet, because it's a little tricky, it's a little difficult. This is in no way a beginner level bracelet. But if you're experienced enough to be able to do this bracelet, you probably got enough experience to figure out how to do this stitching without the tutorial. But you never know. There might be somebody out there who's good, and they made that bracelet, and they're like, well, how do they do that stitch? Well, I'll show you. Okay, let's see. I just ran it through there. Now, all I'm going to do, if you look here on the side, hopefully this can be seen. This piece right here of black that's going through the slot in the buckle and coming out, that's the 2 core strands. This is a 6-strand core bracelet, and that's the 2 outer edge core strands. Well, this one right here, that's the actual core strand that we can see in these gaps that's running up. What we're going to do, where that core strand is, and this piece wraps around, where it bypasses the outside wrap around that outer core strand, it's just going to run right here in this little gully, trench, trough, whatever you want to call that, whatever term you want to apply to it. See, that's all it is. But we got to run it up under every one of these pieces. Right? And I'll usually do 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 at a time, and then pull it through. But I'll give you a little tip, something I've learned when doing this that will help it. Hopefully it'll make it look a lot better, and you'll see it. Just watch, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, what I'm gonna do on this back core strand, I'm gonna just go up under the edge of that core strand, right? And you can go ahead and do this, yeah. If you get it right, I'm gonna go ahead and try to angle it and get it to come out on the other side of this wraparound. If I can get it to go in there right, yeah, like that. We see that. Now, hopefully, potentially, it worked on the other side. Sometimes it doesn't work, but you don't see the gray below that piece. That's what I'm going for on this side. We don't want to see the gray. Like if I pull it through right here, you can see the gray down there. But if I go ahead, and I can do it either way. I can pull it through this way and then run that piece back through there. Yeah, I'll do that, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Mindful of the twist. Mindful of the twist is the tip I'm going to show you in a second. That's going to, hopefully, if I can get the twist out, there we go. Okay, you see what a gray is? You can see it down here below that piece, or on this side. When I say below, I'm talking about the bottom of the bracelet down here toward this buckle. You can see it. But when I run up under that piece of 550, hopefully it's going to pull it up in there and you won't see it down here. That's what I'm going for anyway. Okay, so here's the trick. I'm going to zoom out so you can see this. And I do this quite often when I do stitching with 95 and or 275. When I do this kind of along the side, sometimes the nature of the weave, you can do it up the middle of the bracelet or whatever. Anytime it's sort of this same idea of the way I'm doing this stitch right here, watch what I'm going to do. And maybe you've never thought about this, maybe you have, I don't know. But when I go to do this, because I don't want this cord to be twisted, because if you look at it close, you can see the grains of the individual threads that are actually woven together to produce the larger cord itself, right? So if you look at it, you can see those grains. I call it grain, the threads, the grain. If it gets twisted, you can look at it and you see that it's twisted. We don't want it that way. That's why I say, even when you do your microcord stitching, get them twists out because they're noticeable. To the untrained eye, somebody who doesn't make paracord, they may never notice it. But someone like you and I who does this, yes, we notice it. So that's why I say we're trying to get it out. But the way I do this, because a lot of times these wraparounds are just the nature of the way this idea of stitching is. Sometimes when you run it up under 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 of them at one time, it does get twisted, and you're trying to rotate it up here as you're pulling it through, and it's having no effect on getting that twist out back under these 4 or 5 that you've ran it under, right? So what you do is you make sure you don't have a twist in it before you actually stitch it through there. And it's not that hard considering, you know, a piece of cord's not that long. Now, if you got like 7 feet, yeah, you're probably going to have a twist in there. You'll deal with it, whatever, like a piece of microcord. But this, not that hard. What I'll usually do is I'll take it like this, and I'll stretch this thing out, and I'll just kind of run my finger down it, looking at the grain. I'm making sure that it's not twisted. Does that make sense? And then I'll take my lacing needle, my fid, my stitching needle, and don't start twisting it all crazy. Get it straight, so all that's straight, and then just fold it back over itself and run it through there. The cord's not twisted. Now let me look at it to make sure. Now, you know, sometimes if you do this, it's not a 100% guarantee that it's not going to have a slight twist in it, because it may. But it's not a whole bunch, and you're going to have to fix it every time. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'll just run up under this first one. Let me zoom back in. Hang on, folks. But what I just showed you, I'll do that every single time. I'm going to run up over 1, 2, 3, however many I can get it up under comfortably, and then grab the end of it and pull it out, I'll do. But then the next time when I'll run up under 1, 2, 3, 4, however many I choose, I do that again. I stretch it out, make sure it ain't got no twist. Then I stick the needle through. Does that make sense? You get the twist out first, and then you don't have to worry about trying to get them out when it's so tight in this little constricted space you're getting it through. Got it under 1. I'm just kind of, if I get it to go through there. Sometimes, especially this one right here where I'm going under, it's a little tight because all that stuff in the back is back woven into the bracelet, and it pulls that stuff tight. If you watch the other video, I talk about it being distorted down there at the bottom. Yeah, and this is one of the effects of that. Everything right here at the bottom of the bracelet gets real tight. See, I can tell that one right there is really, really tight. So I'm going to just go up under these 2 for now. I'm going to push it through there. I'm going to pull it, and when I get to right there, I'm going to take that cord. And watch it as I'm pulling it to make sure it doesn't have any twists in it. And if it does, I'm gonna rotate the cord here as I'm pulling it to correct that twist. See how it's wanting to twist right there just a little bit? Okay, no, when I see how now it doesn't have a twist in it. And we'll just pull it straight through. And hopefully it's gonna, yep. Like I said, it disappears up under there. I know the lighting's not the greatest, but it disappears up under there. You don't see it there, right? And like I say, you can see enough of that cord right there and the grain of it to see that it's not twisted. And that's what we're going for. We don't want it twisted up under there, because you're going to see those twists more so with this 95 and or 275. Maybe not so much with micro, but it can be seen. So what I'll do is I'll take it like that, I'll run my finger out, and I'll just lay it back over itself, and I'll look at it. Make sure it doesn't have any twists in it, the best I can. And then, like I said, I'll just take it and I'll fold it over itself and bring it straight into the next wherever. And I'm going to go up under as many as I can get it under that I feel comfortable. Because once you get it under about 2, 3, 4 of them, it gets a little tight, and then you know you got to grab it the other end and pull it out. Yeah, I think I'm going to just do 3 this time if I can get it up under there. See, I went up under 1, 2, 3. Push it through just enough that I can get the other end of it and pull it kind of slow. And then take it. See, doesn't look like there's any twist, so I should be able to pull it. But just make sure as you pull, it's not going to twist up on you, because what will happen is that twist, it'll stay right there, and you'll notice it. When you get it in there, just kind of give it a snug. That way it kind of straightens itself out, because it's going to kind of want to have little angles in it because of the way those pieces are wrapped around. But we want to try to get it as straight as we can. So we pull it here, and we do it again. That's all there is to it. We do it again. I run my finger out to the end, stretch it over itself, getting all the twists out. And then just fold it back over itself and bring it straight in. And go up under however many you can comfortably get it under. I think I can get it under another one right here. These aren't as tight. Yeah, there we go. There's 4 of them. I got 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right through enough that I can get the end of it, pull it. I'm going to lay it out flat again. I'm going to take that. So it's kind of a little bit of a twist, but not much. But as I pull it, it's going to kind of straighten itself out a little bit. But we see how it's not twisted up. It's staying straight. That's the way we want to do it. And once we get it in there, we kind of pull it. You can go back and look at all those places where you can see it. I know you can't see it on camera very well, but you can go back and look at all those places where that gray cord is. Look at that dust on there. And you can see that the grain of that cord is straight. Has no twists in it. That's the way we want it. Neat. That would fall under the neat of the neat, clean, and tight. Same thing. We bend it back over itself, make sure it's not twisted, and just fold the cord, or fold the needle back over. Just run it up under there again. Yeah, I'm going to do 1 more. I could probably do 5. No, I'm going to just do 4. I'm going to see if I can't. Maybe I can get that 5th one in there. Yeah. I got 5 of them. I went up under 5. Thing is, am I going to be able to push it through and have enough on the end of the needle to grab? Because if you try to grab right there where the taper is, you can't get a good grip on it to pull it. See what I'm saying? There we go. Alright. It's got a little bit of a twist. A little bit of a twist. You see how See how that right there indicates it's twisted. So I'm going to correct it. I'm twisting it the wrong way. And it'll correct itself most of the time. By the time it gets there, that twist will be out. Yep, bam, and now pull it tight. I know you can't see it on camera, but I can look at the grain of that cord that's running up under there, and it has no twists in it. And again, we just pull it, snug it down, do it again. All right, now this one I should be able to get up under these last three right here. 1, 2, 3, because we're going to go down back through the bracelet right here in this area. See where the other one goes through. So I can get it up under these last three, which usually can. That first one sometimes a little tight because of the back weave of this. I can get it through there. Before you take out all that slack, just make sure it's not twisted, and pull it kind of slow, and you'll watch it. If it's twisted, it'll start. It'll magnify it when it gets in that little small space. But you'll see, no twists in it. Just pull it tight. Okay, now do the same thing. Make sure it ain't got a twist in it. But this one, all we're gonna do is just go up here. For those who know, that's my locking knot, and that's where the cord started. I'm going to go right up here, right next to the red and the black, right up here in this area, and I'm going to just go through the back of the bracelet. It doesn't really have to come out in any one specific spot. Just get it to go through there. Try not to poke or snag the cords as you do, because this is, the very beginning of this is just pretty tight. It just come out, like I said, it doesn't have to come out in any specific spot on this, because all we're going to do is back weave it in there and cut and burn it. So, right? That's what we did just now, right there. I'm going to just take this, and since I've got all these right here, I'm going to put all of them through there. I've got that main piece of 550, which is the one running up under the Cobra Inlay, acting as the core of that Cobra strand, and then the 2 pieces of micro and the other piece of 95 for that set. I'm going to run this and the other 2 pieces of micro up under that same place. Again, make sure it ain't got a twist in it. Mindful of the twist. I say it all the time, mindful of the twist. Even when you're doing this, always be mindful of your twists. Because somebody who does this, the average person who knows nothing about paracording, they may not notice it. But others who do this, they'll see it. And if it's twisted up bad enough, even those people who don't know how to do paracording, they'll see it. They may not realize what they're seeing, but they'll go, in their mind, they'll go, why does it look all funky and messed up right there? It's because the cord's twisted. Right. Just pull it through. And as always, I always cut my cord a little bit long, just the way I know I got something to work with. I'm going to just cut this off. Alright. Get that needle out of the way, and I'm going to go ahead and melt the end of this so it don't get frayed or nothing like that. Give it a second to cool off. Get the scissors out of the way. I've already got my piece of micro cord ready and set up. Okay, now for this, when I do this, I'm going to start. I'll let you see it. Now you can see that piece of gray. Okay, now we're just going to come back and do these pieces of red. Okay, now I'll say, when you do these pieces of red, the first one you do, it's just going to go in there. But the second one, you have to maintain the fact that you got 2 pieces of cord. The first one goes in, and the second one you have to maintain which side you're doing it on. That way they will both be laying flat and you don't have them crossed over and twisted and all that. So the first piece of spiral stitch, as long as you get the mechanics and where you stick it through, no problem. The second one you got to be a little bit more careful and mindful about when you actually do it. So I'll show you when I get there. This first one, not hard, but I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to anchor it here, and I'm going to work my way down, as opposed to what I just did. I anchored it down here and worked my way up, right? So we're going to anchor it back here where the rest of them are in that same, under them same two pieces of black. Everything's going to get anchored right there. Okay. Push it through. It's pretty tight right there. I normally say put your thumb on it, create some resistance so you don't pull it through. Well, I've already got all this stuff in there, so it's a pretty tight fit. I'm not so much worried about accidentally pulling it all the way through. Okay, now what I'm going to do, just so we can see, I'll explain to you what I'm going to do. The top of the bracelet where the male end is, and this is the non-display side or the back side. What we're going to do is we'll just simply, if you look, you can see this black core strand right here. All we're going to do is spiral around it. Imagine like this, just spiraling around it and going down that core strand, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to come from this back and we're going to come around this way, like this. And then we're going to go. Now you can do this however you want. You could do it. Me personally, if you look, I come around the outside edge of that core strand. I go across the top of it and across that piece of gray that I just put in, right? Now you can go in between the gray and the black if you want. If you want, I've never done it that way. I always do it the way I'm doing it now, right? So we're going to come around the edge of that black and across the gray, and I'm going to go down right here in this area. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to angle it this way, because we see this piece of black up under my needle running this way. I'm going to go in up here, but I'm going to come out down on the bottom side. So we have to get an angle on it to go through there. All the while going just on the inside of this core strand in this thing. Does that make sense? Now once you get it and you see it and you get that angle, it's not really hard. Because you're not having to find, I mean, you got to feel a little bit to get it through there, but it's not that hard. You just, right here, I'll get that out of the way so maybe you can see, get it right there. And you can kind of angle it this way. And it pops out. You see how this piece of black that's wrapping around the outside, I'm on that side of it up here, but on the back, I'm on this side. That's why I get that angle on it. And you just push it through. And when you go to tighten it up, make sure that it's wrapped where you want it. See, it's all twisted around. Yeah, we got to fix that before I pull it tight. I'm doing is spinning it in my hands back here, and it'll take that twist out right there. Right. See that? Okay, now I'm going to just kind of give it a little, I'll tighten it up right there. Now, all we're going to do is, again, we're going to come around like this, and we're going to go through here and come out down there. Same area, same thing, we're just moving down one. Just follow, it comes out here, we're staying in between, we're staying in that little gap between those two pieces that wrap around that outer core strand. We're staying within that gap. So you're coming out the back, coming out the back and wrapping around this way and going through here. And we're going to come out down here below it. So, we just... See, it pretty much goes right through there. Every now and then you might get the one that you might kind of have to do a little bit to get it through there. But most of the time it goes right through. No problem. And before you pull it tight, make sure it's not twisted. Make sure it's not wrapped around the buckle like the first time it did. Right? And then you pull it and you just watch it. When you get it there, just kind of give it a little snug, then we do it again. We bring it across. Same spot, right there. Right there. I'll just run it through. So it's twisted. I'll rotate it back here. Let's go get that twist out. I'll pull it. Just get a little snug. Bring it back across. Just do it again. And that's it. I mean, it's pretty hard. It's pretty easy. The first, like I said, this first one, no big deal. Just get it through there, get the twist out, pull it, give it the snug, wrap it across, do it again. And it's not that many. I don't know how many's down through there. 15, 20 of them you got to do. So it's not that hard. It doesn't take that long to do, and it adds a really, really good effect to the edge of a bracelet, especially this one. Now you could do this in different colors than that in the middle. You know, you got red and gray here. You could do this, and you know, you could keep the gray the same and do the red in a different color, or you could do the gray and the red both different colors. I mean, it's all up to whatever them creative juices come up with. See how easy this is? It's not that hard. Now this I call this the side spiral stitch. It can be done on quite a few bracelets, especially a lot of Cetus weaves. The nature, his style of the weaves he's come up with. I've done it on quite a few of his weaves. But this is not a Cetus weave. The original design of this bracelet is not Cetus. But it can be done on a lot of them, and it's for the most part it's pretty easy. There's a few of them that, yeah, it's not the easiest thing to do. I've done some of them. I'm like, yeah, it's not easy on that one, and you know, it doesn't take a lot of cord. I think I cut this at a 2-foot piece, and I'm not going to use all 2 feet, but I like to have that little So what I did there, I got it at the wrong angle. Pull it back through, angle it this way. But I like to have that comfort zone, that cushion, to know I have enough cord that I'm going to finish, and that I've got enough, especially in the end. See, now when I get down here to the bottom, it starts getting a little tight. You kind of got to work it. See, that one just went right through there. After you do 3, 4, 5 of them, you kind of get the idea of where the angle is and how you want to do it, or how it should be, you know, how to get it through, and it goes right through it a lot of times. Like I say, down here, this right here is probably going to be pretty tight. I'm going to have to kind of work this one through there. Maybe not. Let's see. Yeah, I can feel it. It's tighter going through there because of all this back weave I've got going on right there. But that's okay. I can get it through there. Snug it down, wrap it around. Okay, now let me see. Yeah, this is going to be the last place I do it, the last one, because that's it. There's nowhere else to do it. So on this one, all I'm going to do is run it through. And this one kind of disappears around. You see, in relation to the rest of them, it disappears around the side because you can't really get on the inside of the gray because of the way we did the gray to make it disappear below this piece. So, but I do it anyway. Right? When you go to snug it up, it's going to draw it back. See how it draws it back around toward the back of the bracelet? It kind of wraps around. It's not perfectly lined up with the rest of them, but you still see it there. If you turn it to the side, you can see it. So we'll go ahead and do it there. Now, all I'm going to do is just back weave it into the over here where I've anchored everything else on the side of where I'm doing that stitching. That's it. I mean, it's pretty simple. It takes you, you know, a minute or so to do it, but it's not really that hard. Once you get the concept of what you're actually doing on this spiral stitch, you can do it on pretty much well, I ain't gonna say any bracelet, but a lot of bracelets you can do this on. And it's a way for you to, you know, colors, all about the color, being able to use the colors on that bracelet. Modified concrete jungle. That's the same concept right here on the side. Now, obviously, there's more of them, and this is not micro cord. This is 95, but it's the same spiral stitch around that outer cord strand. Right, there's quite a few bracelets. Widowmaker, Jason Lake weave. Same thing, but that's 95 also. A lot of them that can be done on. Let's see if I got any else sitting up here on my desk. Now, that's all the ones I've got on my desk that have that. Okay. We've got that under there. Now, we'll go ahead and cut it like we did the last one. Get this one out of the way. Bring up the other one. I've already got them set up to go. That piece right there that I just cut, I'm going to melt it. Give it a chance to cool off. Get the scissors out of the way. And I'll back out. I mean, what we just did with that piece of red, we're going to do now with this new piece of red. The same way. But on this one, we have to be mindful that we keep the cords side by side. So we get that wider textured look of having two cords. You see what I'm saying? Now you could do it with just one, you know. Or you don't even have to do it. You could just do the gray or not even do the gray. I mean, it's all up to you, but I'm just showing you how I do this. But I'm going to do it with another piece. Like I said in the beginning, you could use a piece of 95 on that spiral stitch. But I did it this way, and I was like, you know, that looks good. That gives it that extra little, you know, little bit of texture. You can see that there's two pieces. Yeah, you can see that on that camera. That there's two pieces of micro. And you see how none of them's overlapping. They're sitting side by side. They're running parallel, if you will, down through there. Well, when we do this second piece, you have to be mindful of that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, again, male side, display side, top of the bracelet. Just flip it over right there. We just anchored the last piece when we started. We're going to do it the same way. We're going to wrap around this side here. Okay. Get it up under here. It's a little tight. It's pretty tight. There's all kind of stuff going through there. Alright, see that? We just got through there. Okay, now. Pull it through. Don't pull it all the way through. Leave you a little bit there. Right? Okay, now, the way I'm going to do this, if we look, Like I said, let's orientate ourselves. Male side of the buckle. This is the top where I began weaving, working my way down. And like I said, we're going to have two pieces of microcord that we want to lay side by side, next to each other, not on top of each other, not crossing each other, right? Like the rails of a railroad track. The two rails of that one track never cross. They run right next to each other. You never see them cross over each other. All right, that's what we're going to do. And I have found it easier to do it the way I'm going to show you. Right? Run the second cord of this series of red stitches. Run it on the bottom, toward the bottom of the bracelet, in comparison to that red one that's already there. I found it easier. As opposed to, I'll show you, as opposed to trying to put it up on the top side, which would be this way, instead of trying to put it right there, put it right there. Do you see the difference? It's on this side of the piece of red we already ran, not up here. I won't go into explaining why. Just when you do it, you'll see why. It just goes in there better. It makes for a cleaner and tighter looking weave. I'll just put it that way. So when you go through every one of these, you have to be mindful. We're going to do it the same way. We're going to go through in this same spot, but when we go through, don't go through right here. Push it, take your needle, not right here, but over here. And when you come out, you want to come out, I'll show you. Let me get this one through here and I'll show you. You see how the needle itself is coming out on this side of that piece of red that's already there. And you just continue staying on that side of the piece of red you've already ran. Every time you do it. So you pull this through. And when you get up here, we're going to make sure we don't get the twists out. Alright? And when I go to tighten this up, before I pull it tight and seat it in place and then snug it down, make sure that it's going to go right there where we want it. So kind of pull it slowly. And I usually kind of take my finger and just let it guide it into there. Okay, now you see how right here they're kind of crossing over. They're running side by side, but when they get right into the hole, they kind of look like they almost want to cross over. When I go to cinch it, it's going to seat it down in there, and that first one I ran is going to kind of slide up just a little bit. Maybe you'll be able to see it. Watch. Now you can see they're running side by side. And you do every one of them like that. And it makes to keep them right next to each other. So again, we're just going to get a cord, come right out of our edge, and again, not right here, but over here. See how again that needle is coming out on that side of that piece of red. And that's all there is to it. Just be mindful of that, so you don't ever have those two red cords crossing each other, and it makes it look neat. Like I said, you get it right here, get your twist out, and I'll just take my finger, however you want to do this, but this is how I do it, and you get it right there, and make sure it goes right next to that piece of red. And again, they look like they're crossing over, but when you tighten it up, it falls right down in a little groove, and they end up laying right side by side. See, if you try to put it over here on this side, it wouldn't do that right. I tried it. It didn't want to do right. So I ended up, the second cord always goes on that side, toward the bottom of the bracelet. I always put it on that side in relation to the red you already did, or the micro cord you already did. Make sense? And it makes the final product, it looks better. It's easier to get it to lay right there than it is to do it the other way. Right now, we just go through and we do them all like that. Just be careful. You got to just pay a little bit more attention. Be mindful of where it's going through and coming out. And then right here, when you go to pull it, get that twist out. Kind of make sure it seats down where you want it to. And then just give it a snug. And it'll seat right next to it. It'll fall right into place. Right? Okay, now let's do, I'm going to just do this. I think you've seen enough. You're like, shut up and make the bracelet. Yeah, I know. Bam. That's really all it is to it. Like I said, this stitching, it's not hard. It just takes a minute to do it. And you know, you don't have to do the 2 pieces of micro cord. Uh-oh, that didn't want to do right. Gotta make sure it goes where I want it to. And give it a little snug. And like, check this out. Maybe you can see this. You see how it looks like, you can see that the fact that there's 2 pieces down through there. You probably can't see it very well on camera, but those 2 pieces have a little bit more of a gap in between them than I do up here. So I'm going to fix that. I'm going to kind of work them together. And you can't see it on the camera very well, but I could. And that's it. But like I said, it's not hard. It's not a hard stitch. Just spiral side, the side spiral stitch. It's usually not hard, but like I said, it's a good way to give a little extra color, some pop to a bracelet. That's the term I often hear people use. That stitching just makes it pop, exactly, because you want to use. I tend to try to use brighter colors, like darker colors on the bracelet and brighter colors for the stitching. That's a general rule. It's not a hard and fast law or anything. It's just a general rule. But most of the time, you would want, no matter if it's a lighter or darker than the body of the bracelet itself, most of the time you want it to be a contrast in the 2 colors. Unless you're going with like a monochromatic, meaning all the same types of color. A lot of times you'll see me do black, gray, and lighter grays. Darker grays, black, darker gray, and lighter gray. But it's all a black and gray kind of thing, right? But the lighter gray is stitching, and it does contrast with the black and the darker gray. But often you want the hue, the color itself to actually contrast. That way really, really pops. I think when people use that term pop, ooh, that pops. That's the layman way of saying the colors contrast. We're almost down to the end now. See, doesn't take any time at all. And you know, a lot of times, now some of these weaves that are a little like this one right here, I tend not to do anything except the weave. A lot of times I'll have music playing, or you know, I may have, you know, a video, Netflix, or some movie, or you know, whatever playing. A lot of times it's just music. I just have music. I mean, out here in my shop, I usually just have music playing. And you can sit here and do this. Yeah, this right here's a little tight. Let me make sure I get this one in there right. Oh gosh, just don't want to go in there. There we go. Yes. But a lot of times when I do these, I turn on the music or whatever, and I just sit here and relax. You know, most people say this is stress relieving. Yeah, it is for the most part. Until you get to something frustrating, it's not working, the weave's not turning out right, and you know, you get so frustrated and you want to throw your jig across the room, which I've never actually done that. There's been a few times something I'm like, why is this not doing right? But most of the time, it's pretty relaxing. You know, my wife said, he's out there in his man cave again, his paracord doing something. What's he doing? And I walk in and I say, I made a pretty, look at that. She's like, wow. I'm like, she's like, that thing's fancy looking. I'm like, yeah, I know. She said, so intricate. Yeah, I said, I know. I said, that's what I'll be out there doing. Learning how to do this stuff, figuring out how to do this stuff. She's like, my goodness. All right, now that's it. That's the last one. I'm going to cut it. I'll put my feet up. I'm gonna burn that last one. Okay, now we're about to do our final cut and burn. Now I'll go ahead and show you. Even though I had all the twigs, the nubs that I left hanging because I knew I was going to do the stitching at the end of the other video, I still did the try by fire and see if it was going to fit. I'm going to do that again just because, you know, that's kind of something I do in my videos. I'm going to go ahead and do it again, and just so we can see. But before we do it, final cut and burns, we're going to flip it over and we're going to look at it. Make sure that the display side looks good. These little, looks like a drunk snake down through that red line. It's not that bad though. I mean, it can be straightened up. You just kind of work it, kind of straighten it up a little bit. It's because I've been sitting there manhandling, spinning and flipping it. But before I, you know, take my pictures and, you know, put it on display, so to speak, I'm gonna make it straight and make it look good. You don't want to stick it over there like that and then take a picture of it. No, you want it to be aesthetically pleasing, pleasing to the eye. You want it to be straight. That's how you. You know. I have people all the time say, "Man, how you taking pictures? They look so good." I'm like, well, first off, I try to straighten it up. I don't have my buckle up there all cocked sideways, you know. I don't take a picture of a bracelet like that. That's why. Straighten the thing out. Straighten it out. Get it straight. Right? Before you take your picture, straighten your buckles up. Make sure everything's in line. Okay, now, we're going to make sure everything looks good up here before we do that final cut and burn, to make sure. Yeah, everything looks good. So I'm going to come right here, like I always do. I try to take the micro cord. The smaller cords I try to pull up first. And then the thinner ones, and then that one piece of 550. What I'm saying is, if you look at it like this, right? That piece of 550, I'm going to have it toward me, toward the inside, the back side of that buckle is the bottom. I'm going to have that 550 on the bottom and the thinner ones up here on the top. That's just the way I do it. Why? It makes it a little easier to cut and burn, to be able to get to these little tiny pieces of micro cord and actually be able to burn the ends of them without them being right next to the piece of the back of the bracelet that we don't want to burn. That makes sense. That's just something I do. I don't think I've ever mentioned that before, but it's something I try to do. See how that is? And I usually try to, I'll give them that last little snug to make sure there's no slack in them. And then I'll try to kind of fold it up. That way when I cut them, they're pointing up as opposed to laying flat. That way they're sticking up and away from the back side of that bracelet. I don't want to burn it. Okay, smoothing tool. Whatever you use, get it ready. Don't be digging for it while you got molten plastic getting hard over here. Go ahead and have your smoothing tool at the ready. And I know a lot of new people, when they do this, they tend to want to cut this too close. No. Don't cut it so close that you don't have anything to burn. You've got to have something there. Now see, that's a little close, but I can work with that. You want something there that can be burnt and melt and flattened out, mushroomed out. All right? Give it a second to cool off. And then reach up there with my finger. Make sure it's smooth. Make sure no burrs, teats, sharp edges, or whatever. Because most of the time you cut and burns are right here where your buckle are. And most people wear the buckle on the back side of that wrist. And that's probably one of the most sensitive places. Hence why most people, when they check the temperature of a baby's bottle, they'll squirt it right there. Why? Because that's a very sensitive part of your body. And you don't want a little hard piece of burr of that plastic digging in your skin, especially when you're sitting your wrist down on a tabletop or whatever, and it's just going to dig in there. Always make sure it's smooth. Okay, now, same thing. We're going to do the same thing on the bottom. Look around, make sure everything's straight. Oh, yeah, it looks straight. Gonna flip it over. Now all this is in two sections. If you watched the video last night, you got stuff on one side and stuff on the other side. So what I'm gonna do, you got that piece of gray 550 that's acting as that spine running down through there. It's on one side or the other, just the way I did it, because there's only one piece of it. But I'm gonna get all this micro cord from that one side over there, get a hold of it, and that piece of 95, and pull them. Pull each one of them individually, make sure there's no slack in any of them. All right, and I'm going to bend them upwards, and then that piece of black 550 and that piece of that dark gray, that anthracite, it's on that side too, so I'm going to make sure they're pulled tight. Right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all of them as one. Right. And then on this side, all these ones coming out on this side, I'm going to cut them as one. Right. that one, and I'm going to cut the other side. Get all the little pieces that way. Now, they're all right there. And I'm going to do this, since they're all right next to each other, either way I cut it in two sections. If you look at the way I cut it at an angle, see how it angles this way, and then it angles back down the other way. But I'm going to burn them all in one big lump. I'm going to bend my bracelet kind of back out of the way. That way I'm only going to, hopefully, only burn those pieces and not the bracelet. What I'm doing, for those who use one of these torches, you know that these things get extremely hot fast. It will, whatever. And you're thinking, why is it taking him so long to melt all those? Because I'm not putting it directly on there. Like many of you, you take the flame and you move it over there. You kind of, I'm working that hot part of the flame close and away, you know, moving it closer, moving it away, so I can be more exact, like scalpel-like precision, laser precision in burning these things. That's what I'm doing. You know, it's just an experience thing. Now, I ain't gonna say I'm perfect at it. Sometimes I burn the bracelet, but I'm trying not to do that. Now, for those who don't know, on one of these flames, it's kind of hard. I can't show you on camera, but if you look at it, if you look at one of these in the darkness, let's see what. You see that blue that you can see? The tip of that blue, just beyond the tip, that's the hottest part of that flame. Now, what you can't see is there is actually flame on the outside. So you have a cone of flame, that small inner one that you can see, but you have another cone that's bigger on the outside of it, right? The hottest part is at the tip of that cone you can see. Makes sense? But the heat is coming way out there. Even though that cone is only coming out this far, the heat's way up here. But the hottest part's right there at the tip of that thing. So what I'm doing is, here's my cord, and I've got that shaft of flame coming out, and I'm holding it over here. The hottest part's right here at the tip of my fingertips. And I'll kind of move it close, and these things will start melting. If I get it too close, they'll melt too much, too fast. But what I'm doing is trying to melt these here and work it kind of around, working it around and melting the tips of all of them. Don't just stick it over there and melt them all. I'm just kind of trying to melt them, you know, precision. Does that make sense? That's what I'm doing when I do this. That's why when you see me do this, you think, man, it takes him a long time to do it. It's because I'm trying to be very careful and melt them. Maybe, I don't know if you can see this or not. Camera probably, if I turned all the lights off, you might be able to see it a little bit. Oh, my bad, wrong direction. If I turn the camera or the lights off in here, you might be able to see it a little bit better. I'll try that one day. I'll see. I'll do a test run on the lighting. Like I said, I'm not a filmmaker. The lighting ain't great, but you see how you can see that flame? You can see beyond that there is more flame. You can't quite see it when it's bright, but it's there. But at the tip of that flame you can see, that's where it gets the hottest. I'm trying to get the tips of all of them real melted-y and liquidy. That way when I do this, it all melts and combines into one big lump of plastic. Yeah, there's a little, oh, sorry, I'm all out of frame. Sorry about that. There's a little bit of a hard piece right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come at it from this side and see if I can't get that little, melt it just a little bit better right there. Yeah, I think I did it right there. Yep. And smooth out that little piece. Yeah, let me get that too. Ooh. Yeah, there we go. All right. Now, let it cool off for just a second. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Let's cool it off. Let it cool off. I'm going to zoom out. We're going to do our trial by fire to see if this thing fits. But that is how I stitch the quote-unquote Fishbelly with Cobra Inlay. That's what I'm calling this thing. Some people call, now normally the tutorials you don't see this Cobra part in there. Normally you just see the bracelet. They call it a fishtail belly or a belly fishtail. I simply call it a fish belly. You know, it's shorter, easier to say. You know what I'm talking about? You type in Fishbelly in the search bar, you're going to get the results of, like YouTube, you're going to get the results of fishtail belly, belly fishtail. Either way, they're all going to show up if you just type in Fishbelly. But with the Cobra Inlay, because that's not actually stitched after the fact. It's done while you're weaving the 550. You're actually interweaving or inlaying that micro cord into it, right? If y'all can hear that, that's my dog. What is it, baby? Alright, but let's see. Trial by fire, as always. Let me curl this thing around. See if I can't get it on my wrist. I already know it fits. Oh yeah, that's a good fit too. It's not too snug, and it's not too loose. It's just right. Get a little bit of movement, just enough to get the tip of my finger under. But there you go. That's how I stitch the Fishbelly with Cobra Inlay, doing the side stitching. And that one right there looks good. Looks good. I love those colors, red, Imperial Red and black. But with that, I'll end this one like I end them all. Keep it neat, keep it clean, keep it tight. Happy weaving, folks.